G'day, you're listening to Ubuntu AU, Season 9, Episode 39. It's Tuesday the 22nd of November and we're going to discuss what's been happening in the news and community. I'm Bruce, and joining me this week are Bruce.
Hello, Bruce.
G'day, mate. And Bruce.
G'day.
G'day, mate. And Dan.
G'day, Bruce. You actually sound more like Joe Rez than Bruce.
Oh well, I tried. I can't maintain that.
Well done for trying, though. Hi, guys.
We thought that was your real voice and everything.
So, Dan, where are you joining us from?
I'm calling from all the way over in Australia.
What part of Australia, roughly?
The very southeastern tip of Australia, where it is currently raining heavily, and 7 o'clock in the morning. So
we thought it was always sunny there, and you had corks hanging from your hat and everything, and kangaroos were skipping by. Is that not the case?
We do, but once every 10 years we get rain, and that happens to be today.
Oh,
that's nice. Once every 10 years we get sun.
Is that what that is?
Right, so the question is some of our listeners might find your voice familiar, so where may they have heard you before?
I co-host a little podcast called System AU with one of my friends, Nick, so people may have heard me from there. Otherwise, they may have seen me typing around G+ or something like that. But typing isn't hearing, is it?
Not the same thing.
No, but it's a pleasure to be on your show today. Thanks for inviting me on, guys.
no worries.
Well, thank you for giving us a hand. That's really good of you.
And it's very kind of Martin to do an actual professional job of interviewing someone, of introducing them, rather than what I did last week, which is just gloss over John completely. Sorry, John. Still guilty about that.
Aside from ignoring anonymous John, what have you been up to, Popey?
I've been sharing a hotel room with you for the weekend. Yes, where myself and Martin went to the lovely town of Essen in Germany for UbuCon that we've been talking about in the upcoming event, so we don't need to talk about that anymore for the last 6 months.
Nothing noteworthy happened then.
It was brilliant. It was really excellent at Unperfect House in Essen, which is a quirky building I'd never been to before. Martin's been before, and he kind of half prepared me for it, but no, it was excellent. Loads of good talks, super friendly people, great atmosphere, lovely venue, good food, loads of beer. And yes, and we got an interview while we were there, which we'll put in a later show.
Right.
And so endorse the event. And if you hear about another Ubuntu Con in the future and you're nearby, seriously consider going. It was a great weekend.
Really super. Yeah, loads. I gave a talk at lunchtime, and because the venue is small and they had so many people, they said, "Look, we can't cater for everyone at the same time," so they had a split lunch. And even though my talk was at lunchtime, I got loads of people in there, which was really good, and loads of good questions and useful feedback and help from my co-workers when I screwed things up. And loads of other talks from lots of other people as well. People from the community. Jane Silber did a keynote. Thibaut from the IoT team gave a talk about IoT, which was quite good fun. He's very energetic when he gives a talk. So that was good fun. And it had plenty of time for standing in the corridors and talking to other people and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, it was super, and I would definitely do it again.
Definitely.
Awesome.
We get on with it then.
Let's. And now it's time for some news. And first up in the news this week, the UK Parliament has enacted extreme surveillance laws even, but nobody seemed to notice.
How did they manage that?
Now, I have a feeling that the Home Secretary became Prime Minister, and she made it look like we were all concentrating on other things while she was quietly shuffling this through.
I So what does the investigatory powers bill do?
Well, among other things, it requires ISPs to retain records of customers' internet activity for 12 months and then allow the police and government to look at it if they deem necessary.
Is this the so-called internet connection record or whatever she
called it? The internet connection record,
Mm-hmm.
yes. Which is things like the websites you visit, but not what you do there, because, you know...
You couldn't possibly tell what I do at some websites, could you?
No.
So apparently it's the top-level domains only, not the URLs, and not the message of the communication.
So you can tell if a terrorist went to...
Well, yeah.
You can tell if a terrorist went to YouTube, but not whether they were watching extremist videos or not, which is useful.
No, but you could tell if someone went to desktop.telegram.org and downloaded the Telegram client, because that's the only feature that's available on that website. And from that, you can infer that there's probably Telegram traffic on their machine. And from that, you can infer that maybe you should start monitoring their Telegram traffic.
Right.
And this bill has arrived just in time, because it looks like it's going to get royal assent, because things generally do after they've been through the Lords. And
they always do, don't they?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought it was
a veto,
a massive constitutional crisis if it didn't.
Hopefully, if Queen Elizabeth is, got a crown on straight that day, maybe she'll turn it down. But the Data Retention and Investigatory Powers Act that's currently in force actually expires at the end of the year.
Was this the sort of emergency one when they realised that everything they were doing was horribly illegal? Yeah,
this is the one that the courts ruled to be unlawful last summer. So just as that unlawful thing is being phased out, this new law comes in to replace it, which is just perfect.
Just in the nick of time.
Yeah, thank goodness.
So now would be a time to invest in VPN stock, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And tell everyone you know to use a VPN.
It's interesting you say that. The Hello Bitfolk, who are the premier sponsor of this podcast.
And indeed the only sponsor.
There was a thread on their user mailing list this week about this and how, could I pipe all my traffic from my home through my Bitfolk VPS? So people are, technical people are already starting to look at ways and means to circumvent this kind of thing. And we should, just like I can't believe I'm saying this, just like citizens in China have to work around the Great Firewall, I don't doubt that clever people in this country are going to work around this, but we shouldn't have to.
And if you want your friends and family who aren't so technical to be able to take advantage of it, Opera has a free VPN built in, which is literally just a switch on the
Is that
address
Opera
bar.
that's now owned by a Chinese company?
It is.
Yes. Okay. Moving on.
The VPN is provided by a third party. If that helps.
Right.
I don't know.
Moving on. The glorious OpenSUSE community has moved ahead of the glorious Fedora community. Richard Brown, chairman of the OpenSUSE project, says they have around 600,000 users. They've got fairly accurate stats on the number of their users. I know we often talk about how it's very difficult to tell how many Linux users there are out there, but apparently OpenSUSE has quite good stats because they have quite good ways of monitoring things like usage of repositories and downloads and insert Richard Stallman saying it's spyware here. No, I wouldn't say that. Richard is a good friend. I've had good beers with him in Nuremberg.
Richard Stallman or Richard Brown?
Richard Brown. No, not him. So this was an article on itwire.com where he just talked about, how OpenSUSE is growing as a community, which is great for them, and how Fedora also have similar method of gathering metrics. So, some distros gather these stats and produce them publicly so that you can see, and other distros don't have a means to gather them or do gather them and don't publish them.
Or grab page hit rankings off DistroWatch.
Or that, yes.
Yes, the unenlightened can do that, can't they? It's interesting, though, because 600,000 users is far lower than I would have expected for OpenSUSE.
Well, I don't know if that's just OpenSUSE and doesn't cover certain other versions, or whether it's only a particular subset of SUSE users. I'm sure there's a significant number of corporate SUSE users, enterprise users. But yeah, I mean, the number was significantly lower than I thought it would be. I thought it would be in the millions.
Well, it also implies that Fedora is lower as well, which is also surprising.
Yeah, absolutely. Very.
And speaking of Fedora, they've just shipped Fedora 25 with Wayland as the default display technology. So congratulations to the Fedora team.
Yes. Yeah, that's hot off the press, isn't it? It's
right today as we're recording this, or tomorrow if you're in Australia.
Yes, we're on the ball this week.
Or yesterday.
So, Mark, you've got a prediction about this, haven't you?
I have. Yes.
Yep. So your quid's in then for the end of the year, right? I am
quid's in. Nothing is going to take this away from me.
Other than the fact that Fedora aren't in the top 5 distros anymore, which I think is the linchpin of your prediction.
Maybe I meant... Oh, no. I think I did specifically say the top 5.
Yes,
that's my sound effect for
the end of this year. Right, well, maybe I don't know, maybe the Linux Mint community will implode between now and December and Fedora will rise.
And all the stats be eradicated from DistroWatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some hope. Yeah, good luck with that in the 6 weeks up to Christmas.
Here's hoping, Mark.
Yeah. Well done. Moving on.
Next up, we've got a report from Backblaze. Backblaze are a backup and storage provider in the cloud, and they've published their latest batch of drive reliability data. And in particular, they've been looking at how the new Seagate 8 terabyte disks perform in terms of their reliability. And they've got access to nearly 70,000 disks that the company is using to store nearly 300 petabytes of data.
Wow!
I think we've spoken about one of their reports a few years ago.
They're
I wish I'd looked it up now to compare.
So, the reason they're useful is, if you're doing data centers professionally, here's somebody that you can use their data to actually make good purchasing decisions on what make and model of, drive you're going to go for. And if you're just a home enthusiast and you really can't afford for drives to be ones that fail quickly, you can use this to also choose what disks you're going to use at home.
Yes, the 70,000 disks that I'm going to use at home.
Well, for example, some of the disks have got like a 12% failure rate, and others have got a 0 or 0.4% failure rate. So that sort of kind of gives you an idea where you should, invest your money.
Whenever I see these huge data volume sizes, like 300 petabytes, which is quite a large size, it always reminds me of there's an episode of the best Star Trek series there was, which was Enterprise, of course. There's an episode, I think, where the ship catches a virus, and there's a big screen, and on this big screen there's a counter detailing how much data has been deleted from the ship's computer, and it says something like 100 million XB or something like that. And I thought, XB, I wonder how many that is. No, it's not an SI unit, XB.
Oh.
So
they normally
it's
use
off the
gigaquarks
scale.
on Star Trek.
It's so much that there isn't an SI unit for, or there will be in the year, 25. Anyway, yes, good news from Backblaze.
Well, Dan, what's next?
Oh, moving right along. A story from the land of Linux. Ouch is next. There's a long-standing major flaw in the Lux encryption setup. In that, basically, if you can access a computer, switch it on, and hold the Enter key for a minute and a half, you own it. So it's pretty severe.
Is it really as simple as that? Just hold the key down and you're done.
Unfortunately, you wait for the Lux password prompt to come up, and then you just hold Enter down.
It takes you into a BusyBox session, and that's it.
Wow.
You're
so
in.
Is this just because it's like submitting a blank password a lot of times and failing, and then eventually it just overflows and gives up?
It has a count how many failed attempts there are, and after 30 failed attempts, it bombs out.
Wow.
Drops to a root shell.
Oh, right, which is what you want when someone is trying to break into your computer.
Not the best failure condition.
And this has been there for, it says, a long-standing major flaw. That sounds like it's been there for a while, right?
It's been there since kernel 2.6 or something like that, I think.
We used to do this when I was at college in 1989, we used to crash each other's lock screens by holding down the enter key. Nothing changed on a Prime OS mini computer. Nothing
changed. This begs
changed.
the question why you haven't found this bug before now. Why did you let the internet down?
My cat hasn't been laying on my keyboard often enough, clearly. But now it's fixed.
I kind of take issue with the article that we're going to cite, though, for this, because because obviously you need to have physical access to the machine in order to actually hold down the enter key. So, and you have to be using Lux. And the author of this article feels that, because Linux is used in the cloud, this is a significant problem. But having deployed lots of servers in the cloud, they rarely have a keyboard attached to them.
And you rarely have people walking up to them as well.
Also, unless they're doing something very specific, rarely use Lux as well. So, slightly accurate there. Anyway.
Moving on.
Google has strongly recommended OEMs against using proprietary fast charging methods in phones.
So is this like the fast charge methods that are in things like the OnePlus 3 and OnePlus T?
Yeah, so there's some proprietary things like Qualcomm Quick Charge, which a few phones are using, and some other various proprietary methods which involve sort of just overloading the voltage pins on the USB connector, and that's sort of not universally supported. You might find that some things work and some cables work and some cables don't with those phones. So Google is strongly encouraging people to just use USB-C.
So
like
Google, a software vendor, is telling hardware vendors what to do with their devices in the same way that Microsoft used to tell hardware vendors what they could do with their netbooks in order to install Windows on them. And they used to tell hardware vendors, and they probably still do, what to put on an Ultrabook in order to make it a Ultrabook.
Moreover, it is a little bit of the case of the pot calling the kettle black, because Google are advocating that people don't use proprietary software in Android.
Lol.
I know.
Like there's no proprietary software in Android whatsoever on any shipping Google device.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just ridiculous.
So what's so special about Qualcomm's Quick Charge versus video, chips and GPS and all the other?
I watched a review from MBKHD on YouTube today of the OnePlus 3T, and he said one of the standout features is the quick charge, the fact that it's like the fastest charging device on the planet, like 15 minutes, and you've got enough to keep you going for many hours. That's a compelling feature that users want, and to cripple that, and the software vendor saying you shouldn't do that is kind of terrible.
Worrying. Anyway, what's up next?
Spotify, the desktop app, writes tons of data to storage drives, even if you're not listening to music. It turns out there was a bug in the software that was writing hundreds of gigabytes to your user storage area, because Spotify caches stuff locally. And the worry was that with vast amounts of writes being done to your storage, if your storage was an SSD, which is common on netbooks and laptops, it could reduce the life of your SSD. It's been fixed and the update's been released, so there we go.
Quite funny reading the comments section on these stories, because it's a bunch of people saying, it's happening! It's writing loads of data, I just checked.
Buy me a new SSD, please, Spotify.
Yeah, I was just thinking my 1 terabyte NVMe SSD seems to have gone bad. Where do I sign up for a new one?
Save us from this nonsense, Dan.
With another nonsense story by the looks of things. Apparently Tizen is still a thing, and apparently it's a thing that no one writes apps for. So they're coming up with a little incentive. So I think from February to October next year, the top 100 apps each month will win $10,000 each. That's massive.
Wow.
That's not a bad chunk of change.
Yeah.
Shoving an app in the Tizen Store.
Get yourself in the top 100 apps and win $10,000. There's absolutely no motivation there to game that system whatsoever, is there?
Well, the thing is, I've had a Tizen Store account for over a year because I was evaluating Tizen for work purposes a couple of years ago. And I still get emails from Tizen telling me every month what the top 20 apps in the store are. And it's basically the same 20 apps. So I don't doubt that the top 40, the top 60, the top 100, maybe at the bottom there's some stragglers who jump in and out now and then, but I would imagine it's a pretty static store. I'm not wishing to throw stones. I realize the Ubuntu phone store is not a shining example of thousands of apps, right? But I'm just saying there is the opportunity for developers to make a bit of money and, support another Linux-based phone.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea, really.
No.
It's quite the incentive, really.
Finally, Martin, save us.
Okay, well, finally, Apple have reinvented the book.
Oh, at last.
Not an iBook, not a MacBook, the book. Apple have created a 450-page book detailing 20 years of Apple design. And the book follows many of the Apple tropes. So it's available in two sizes, small and large. The small book is $199. And the large book is $300. So is anyone going to buy one of these to put under the Christmas tree?
No.
Does the 20 years of Apple design include the last couple of years where we've had the Apple Pencil that plugs in the bottom of the iPad Pro and the massive amount of dongles you need for Apple laptops these days? Does it include that?
I don't know. Well, I don't know. What I do know
they can
is
certainly
that
pad it out with 1 page per dongle, that's for sure.
Yep. Yeah, what I do know is it's been printed on specially milled, custom dyed and gilded matte
For
silver.
God's sake, that's the end of the news.
No, it gets better.
And now it's time for the community news, Microsoft news and events. Sorry, I only just noticed that. First up, Microsoft has been demonstrating its continued commitment to loving all things Linux and open source. Microsoft has joined the Linux Foundation, which some people have lauded as hell freezing over.
Again.
Again. Some have also pointed out, Simon Phipps pointed out that the cost of them joining the Linux Foundation was about 0.25% of the revenue that they gained from their patent threats against Linux. So,
Oh, good.
yeah, let's put that in perspective. Microsoft SQL Server public preview is available on Ubuntu and other lesser-known Linux distributions. And Microsoft .NET Core 1.1 brings support for more Linux distributions and greater performance, so says the tagline on this news story.
They've been busy, haven't they?
And actually, while we were at UberCon, there was a great talk by one of the Microsoft guys about Bash on Ubuntu on Windows. And it was really nice to see a bit of information about the internals. And also I saw a news article today about the fact that you shouldn't try and delete files from the Linux part from within Windows when you're running this Bash on Ubuntu on Windows. And the guy was at great pains to tell us not to do that in this talk because you will trash your Linux file system.
Don't use Windows to manage the Linuxy bit of the file system because that stuff will happen. That was my second favourite talk on Saturday, the Microsoft talk. It was really good.
That was good.
Colin Watson has sent Git imports are available in Launchpad, also known as Git mirroring. So this complements the existing Launchpad capability of building snaps from Git repos. And
does this mean that you can have a Git repository somewhere else, e.g. GitHub, and mirror that to Launchpad?
Yes,
exactly.
You could have a Git repository on a non-free platform like GitHub and mirror it to a free software platform like Launchpad.
I thought you'd like that idea, Alan.
Yes.
Or you could have a Git repository in a free code hosting solution like GitLab.
Yes.
And then you could mirror it to Launchpad so that you can get Launchpad to automatically build your snaps for all of the architectures that you're interested in automatically for you.
That's pretty
And that's
funky.
what it gets. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm doing that with Pod Publish, by the way. It works very well.
Neat. Where do you host it in Launchpad or somewhere else?
Bitbucket.
So you pull in from Bitbucket.
Yeah.
into Launchpad and then building on. That's pretty cute. I like that.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah. It's nice to see, for development on Launchpad have been on hiatus for quite a long time, and Colin Watson has been doing an awful lot of work over the last year or so, adding like Git support and then all these additional features like build servers for, these are free build servers for the community, people to be able to use compute infrastructure in Launchpad to build their applications. So make use of it.
Sergio Sveshkov? How do you pronounce his surname?
I don't know. I never say it. I always call him Sergio.
I was just going to say Sergio, and then I thought I can't do that. Anyway, Sergio, hello Sergio, has published an article about making snaps available in the store using Snapcraft. So Snapcraft has a number of command facilities, including, making a snap or priming a snap or building in an LXD container. But it also has commands for logging into the store, uploading snaps to the store, and then publishing them or releasing them into different channels. And he's documented how that entire process works.
So, going along with the story immediately before this, you could have your software project on GitHub, sign up to Launchpad, configure Launchpad to pull the code from GitHub into Launchpad, automatically build it on every change that you ever make on GitHub.
Yes.
And send it straight to the store automatically. So you don't ever have to publish manually. It just goes straight from GitHub directly to the store through Launchpad. That's brilliant, in my opinion.
I like it a lot.
Very good.
Next up, David Calais has written on Ubuntu Insights about new documentation for building your own Ubuntu core images.
Ooh. Is this like a porting guide kind of thing?
It looks like, yes. Something with...
That's quite interesting, because I've seen a lot of new, interesting devices, like small single-board computers around, and that kind of documentation is helpful for people who want to port to a currently unsupported device.
Just to recap on what Ubuntu Core is, this is the all-snap version of Ubuntu. So the kernel's a snap and the whole OS is a snap, and then you install things on it as snaps. And what this guide explains is how you make your gadget snap for the kernel, and then how you build that into an image so that you can make your own core images. And if you go and look at a website like Armbian that's got Debian and Ubuntu classic images for lots and lots and lots of SBCs, you've got lots of good reference there on how and what kernel you can build to embed in a core image such as this.
Great. Oh, it's me. Tim Peters from the Ubuntu SDK team has written up how to create snap packages of cute applications. That's not applications that are cute, kittens and stuff, but Qt applications. And he's included details of how to use the Ubuntu App Platform Snap via the content interface. What that basically means is, in previous incarnations, we would have a snap that was quite bulky because it included every single library you need. And now we pull out some of those libraries and put them into a separate snap called Ubuntu App Platform that you can connect to from your snap. So you don't have to bundle every single Qt library inside your snap. And so he details how you do that and how that can reduce the size of your snap and the build time of your snap, which is good.
Ubuntu.
That sounds better than what the name you are.
I think we should just go with that. Ubuntu Budgie has, or is becoming, or has officially become, an official Ubuntu flavor. So well done to the Ubuntu Budgie team.
You're running Ubuntu Budgie right now, aren't you, Dan?
I certainly am. Yes, and it's.
How are you getting on with it?
Well, being an unashamed fan of the Budgie desktop, I'm seeing this 16.10 release as a massive upgrade from the 16.04 release. And I think by the time the official, properly official 17.04 version comes out, it'll be pretty rock solid. I think anyone who's a little scared to give Solus a go and wants to stick with the fantastic base of Ubuntu, but want to give Budgie a try should give it a go.
Bitcoin's in the post. Awesome. That's good to hear.
Well done, guys.
Next up, the Ubuntu kernel update utility has been released, which gives you a list of available and installed kernels on your Ubuntu or Ubuntu-based system and lets you install or remove different ones.
Ooh. Yes, and it also includes the mainline kernel PPA. So if you're running some exotic new hardware that absolutely requires the latest kernel to enable some sort of bit of hardware, then you can grab a mainline kernel with this utility as well.
I would imagine that's also useful if you're, for example, having issues with hardware. Maybe, for example, Network Manager is disconnecting and you want to try and see if a newer kernel will fix that. You could do that with this utility, perhaps?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sweet.
Very cool.
Yep.
Finally, in the community news, Fedora 25 makes MP3 playback easy, and Fedora 26 might ship it by default.
MP3 playback by default?
I know.
Shocker.
Who'd have thought it?
I see a crack in the wall there.
The sky's falling. That's the end of Fedora.
I don't know. I just don't care enough. I just tick the box that says, give me all the non-free stuff that makes my stuff work, or I install VLC and this problem just goes away. I know that's the wrong thing to think, but I haven't ever worried about MP3s since, 2008, I think, maybe.
I think it's around then that the codec installer appeared, wasn't it?
Right. Hey-ho. Moving on, we've also got some upcoming events. First up, we've got DevRelCon in London, which is on the 7th of December. It's a one-day conference about developer relations, developer experience, and developer marketing, and I'm going.
Yep. And next up, we have the second Horsham Raspberry Jam. Dan, if you could just explain to Nick that Horsham is somewhere in the country. I'm not talking about horse and ham and raspberry jam, okay? So this is the second Horsham Raspberry Jam on Sunday, the 11th of December in Horsham, England. It says, come and have fun learning about and using Raspberry Pi, Arduinos, robotics, coding and electronics. Many interactive projects will be on show. And thanks to Gavin Hewins from Hack Horsham for emailing us to tell us about that event.
That's funny because my mum lives in Horsham, but that would be the Australian version.
I am disappointed.
Speaking of the Australian version, we've got linuxconf.au 2017 is coming up. Tickets are on sale now, but the early bird tickets have sold out, I think. So linuxconf.au is basically the Linux conference in Australia and surrounds. Nick and I went last year and it was amazing. We're likely
going again this year.
Yeah, we're I think Nick is definitely going. I may be going, just depends on what's happening with work around the time.
It was very near your home last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was basically in our hometown earlier this year, so that was really handy. I no longer live there, so luckily they're not having it there again because it wouldn't be handy.
It was that good this year that everybody moved out.
It's in Tasmania. It's in Tasmania this year in Hobart. Tassie is an amazing little island. Beautiful little spot. Message for Nick though. You are on the LinuxConf webpage. That's all.
And finally, in the events, FOSDEM 2017 is from the 4th to the 5th of February in Brussels, in Belgium, at the Université Libre de Brussels. And it's a free event for software developers to meet, share ideas, and collaborate. And it's awesome. Go.
And if anyone has any events that you want us to promote, then send it to us. I think Laura will tell you how to do that.
We love getting your feedback, so please send it to us. Even the pointlessly mean stuff makes us laugh. If it's short, tweet us on @Ubuntu Podcast. If it's less short, but please no essays, email us on show@ubuntupodcast.org. If you'd like to discuss some of the things we talk about with other listeners, post on our shiny new subreddit at reddit.com/r/Ubuntu podcast, or you can just leave a comment on the relevant show notes on our website, ubuntupodcast.org.
And that's all for episode 39. We'll be back next week when we'll be discussing the next doc, bring you some command line love, and go over your feedback.
Awesome. Yay.
Thanks, Dan.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Dan.
No problem.
Will you, by any chance, come back next week, if it's convenient?
Oh, could I please?
Oh, that'd be lovely.
That'd be great.
Can you afford the long-distance phone call?
It's okay. I'll sell my couch.
Brilliant. See you next week.
Bye.
And stop.